And few months after I joined the team, I attended a delivery ceremony of a helicopter to a children's hospital. And I was watching about dozens of nurses really jumping up and down around the helicopter. Some were crying, some were smiling, some were laughing. So all the emotions all together. And this is when I realized that the helicopter business, yes, it's a business, but it's much more than that. Because what the nurses were seeing in the helicopters is their ability to save more children's lives. So helicopter business, it's a business, but it's also a purpose. Because what the helicopter do every day, it's about saving life, it's about protecting people, it's about growing our economies and transporting passengers safely.
Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS and in partnership with Vertical Magazine. In this special episode of the Vertical MRO Podcast, I'm joined by Romain Trapp, Executive Vice President of Customer Support and Services at Airbus, for a wide-ranging conversation about leadership, innovation, and the future of rotorcraft support. Romain shares the personal journey that led him through key leadership roles at Airbus Helicopters in Canada, North America, and now globally, a journey grounded in passion, purpose, and people. During this insightful interview, Romain shares valuable perspectives on leading effectively through global crisis and economic turbulence. He emphasizes the significance of fostering a strong organizational culture by personally engaging with team members on the hangar floor. Romain also provides an in-depth look at Airbus's ongoing global transformation strategy, which is built on pillars of trust, high performance, and sustainability. Furthermore, he discusses recent advancements in training and workforce development, along with the challenges in attracting the next generation of aviation professionals. With experience supporting over 12,000 helicopters worldwide, Romain offers honest insights into the future of helicopter maintenance, MRO strategies, and the vital partnerships that ensure rotorcraft operate safely and efficiently. This episode's a must-listen for anybody passionate about leadership, aviation, and the future of rotorcraft technology. Special thanks to our sponsors, Airbus and Rotorcraft Repair and Manufacturing. Thank you to this episode's sponsors, Safe Structure Designs and Airbus. Hey, welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast. I'm today's host, Jon Gray, and I am humbled and honored to have this conversation today with our guest. This guest is somebody who, in Mike Reno's words, is truly making a difference and is just a good human being. I think at the end of our careers, if somebody says that about us, that's the gold standard right there. It's all you really care about is making a difference. And if it's one person or in our guest, his experience and his career, thousands, if not more. What an honor to have someone say that about you. So I want to introduce Romain Trapp from Airbus. He's had an amazing career at Airbus, starting back in, was it 1998?
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in 1998. You've worked your way up. You started as what was your title in 1998?
In 1998, so I started at Airbus on the fixed wing side, actually, in 1998, and I started on the finance side. And I remember at that time I had my office overlooking the Airbus 320 final assembly line. And I can tell you, as a first job, it's really, really exciting, especially when you are a young person starting a career.
Yeah, and you started there, and now you're the vice president of your arm. Like, that is amazing. What an amazing run you've had. Executive vice president, customer support and services. Man, what a run. And think about all the lives that you've impacted in that amount of time. Amazing. When you look back at your early self graduating from college, did you ever envision a situation where you'd be in the position you're in now?
Absolutely not. Actually, I remember when I graduated. When I graduated from high school, because I was interested at that time into economics, and I thought, maybe I'm going to be a banker. But a banker, I'm from the countryside, so I didn't think about banking in New York or London. I was thinking about banking in the small city next to the village I grew up. And then one thing led to another, and it's 27 years at Airbus. Actually, I remember when I started at Airbus, it's actually an interesting story. It's really led by my wife. At that time, my girlfriend. She had the opportunity to work at the University of Toulouse in France, and so we were living in Paris, and I followed her in Toulouse, and I applied for a job at Airbus because for me it was actually very important to work for a company and in a company where I can really be proud of the product which is made and which makes me dream.
Yeah.
And it's how I started at Airbus, and then going from Airbus 320 final assembly line to had the great opportunity to work as well on the Airbus 380 program right at the launch, with all the excitement of the launch of a brand new program like that. But of course, all the challenges.
Yeah, of course. That's a huge program.
Yeah.
You know, when you look back at your youth growing up in the countryside, I think a lot of us, when we have the passion that we have, and it's evident that you have in aviation, I think you can look back to your childhood and kind of pinpoint something that happened. Like, oh, this thing happened to me as a kid related to aviation, and I fell in love with it then. Is there something you can look back on in aviation as a kid and be like, oh, that was really interesting and really drew my attention and kind of my passion?
It's a great question, and I must admit, I was not passionate by aviation at that time when I was a kid. And one of the reasons, actually the main reason, is the fact that when I was a kid, I had motion sickness.
Okay.
So flying for me was actually a challenge.
Yeah.
And so I never ever thought that I would work in aviation. And but here I am.
There you are.
Because actually, by flying more and more, we started working for Airbus, and I have no more motion sickness. And now it's really, I love aviation, and especially I love the world of helicopters.
Yeah, helicopters are great. The mission mindset that we have, the different things that we can accomplish, the life-saving measures that take place in helicopter aviation is amazing. And that actually comes full circle. Can you talk about when you got bit by the helicopter bug? I remember reading about a situation where you were at a hospital and a group of nurses were present. Can you talk about that experience you had and kind of how that kind of drew you to love helicopter aviation?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, if I step back in my career, so I've been working for Airbus now for 27 years, but 10 plus years were on the fixed wing side and also some corporate functions. And in 2008, I remember I had the opportunity to join the Airbus helicopter team in the United States. And at that time, I was moving from the fixed wing world to the helicopter world, and I thought I was moving to a different business of Airbus. Okay, it's all aviation, all passionate by aviation, but for me, at that time, it's a business. And a few months after I joined the team, I attended a delivery ceremony of a helicopter to a children's hospital. And I was watching about dozens of nurses really jumping up and down around the helicopter. Some were crying, some were smiling, some were laughing. So all the emotions all together. And this is when I realized that the helicopter business, yes, it's a business, but it's much more than that. Because what the nurses were seeing in the helicopters is their ability to save more children's life. Yeah. So helicopter business, it's a business, but it's also a purpose. Because what the helicopter do every day, it's about saving life. It's about protecting people. It's about growing our economies and transporting passengers safely. So 17 years later, I am still in helicopters, and really, I love really the helicopters activities all over the world.
I can tell by the big smile on your face when you talk about helicopters, you know, how much you love it. And it's interesting because I feel like everybody in our industry, in the helicopter community, has that big smile on their face when they talk about helicopters. Yeah. And it surrounds, I think, what you just brought up, the fact that what we do saves lives. It makes things happen. You know, airplanes are great. Fixed wing operations are really cool for a lot of reasons, but they don't do what helicopters do. And I think you find that passion, that love in the helicopter community, you don't find in many places. But you've had a really interesting career. You brought up your initial start with Airbus. Can you kind of walk us through the different steps that took place in your career and allowed you to experience a bunch of different things?
Yeah, no. So after, so I started as I said earlier on the more the economics, the finance side, working in the Airbus 320 final assembly line, moving to Airbus 380 program. At that time, it was a development, launch of a brand new program. And then I had the opportunity to take some corporate roles, both in Munich and in Paris. At that time, we had two headquarters at the holding company of Airbus. And then when I moved to the US, I moved actually as a chief financial officer of Airbus Helicopter in the US. I remember when I moved there, it was 4 weeks before the big financial crash of September 2008. And at that time, the aerospace business and especially the helicopter activities went completely upside down, moving from a growth situation to managing a crisis, actually, for our activity. And several years later, I was very much interested into general management, and I had the opportunity to become the CEO of Airbus Helicopter in Canada. So this is what I did in 2013. I can tell you, Canada is a fantastic country when you want to learn the helicopter business and the helicopter activities. Canada has the second largest number of helicopters in the world, and lots of different activities, and especially the flying in very remote areas.
Yeah.
This is where you understand very well the importance of safety, the importance of reliability, of trust in the helicopters, because you are really flying in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so after several years there, I had the opportunity to go back to the US as a chief operating officer of our company in the US. And then several years later, I became the CEO of Airbus Helicopter in the US. And about almost 2 years ago, mid-2023, I was proposed to join the Airbus Helicopter Executive Committee, so for our worldwide activity, in charge of all our customer support and services activities, both on the civil and military worldwide. So it's basically supporting our 12,000 helicopters, more than 12,000 helicopters flying all over the world.
Wow. What a career. You breeze over it in a matter of minutes and think about all the different nuances and things that happened over the course of their career that were really impactful. You talked about the economic crash of 2008. That wasn't the only economic situation you find yourself in that's been challenging. You look back in the last maybe 3 different worldwide challenges economically that we've had. You've been in a position of leadership. Can you talk about how that's impacted your career and how that helped to develop you as a leader?
Well, it's fun that you are mentioning that because when I had the great honor to lead the team in Canada, so 2013, I remember when I moved there, the business was growing, and a few months later, the activity completely went upside down. This was the time where actually the oil price decreased significantly, plus the price of many raw materials, which impacted significantly the mining industry and other industry in Canada. And basically, from one day to another, from a growth situation, we went into how do we save the company?
Right.
Because started thinking about potentially having to to reduce the activity, and we were really on a survival mode there, and which was critical, and this is when actually the management team of Airbus Helicopters in Canada really came together and say, okay, we know that in several years from now the market will be back because we are in a very cyclical type of activity. How do we survive? And we started really thinking out of the box. And what does it mean, thinking out of the box? Actually, we had great team working on composite manufacturing. Well, suddenly from one year to another, the demand went down for helicopters. So we said, well, can we do something else? And actually, we found something else which was close to it, which was the high-end car activity. And with this allowed us to keep really the competency, to keep the team when the business went back. So this one element is the think out of the box, which I think has followed me after that, but also about resilience.
Yeah.
Actually, when I moved back to the US in 2016, then we started another crisis.
Another one.
And at some point, it was my third crisis, and I said to myself, is it linked to me? Each time I change job. But actually, it really helped me really being resilient. And I realized that one of my strengths is really being able to manage crises.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at a time, a crisis. It's about, at that time, leadership, it's about importing stress and exporting energy.
So
and
I found that quote in an article written about you, and that's one of the greatest quotes that I think I've come across regarding leadership. Because you think about, what your job in leading people, what you do, and you're leading them through, in your case, crisis time and time again. What a great quote. Going back to thinking outside the box, it is amazing that you guys looked at yourselves and were like, okay, what are our production capabilities? You talk about composites and vehicles. It was the Ford GT composites that you guys were creating, right?
Correct. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. Like even to think, okay, it's a different industry, but we've got the capability, and this will help keep all these folks employed that are working underneath me. So you thought outside the box and developed that resilience. And like you said, a leader is someone who's importing stress and exporting energy. That's amazing. Can you expand on that a little bit?
When you are a leader, actually, especially at a difficult time, people, this is what I learned all along my career, everybody is looking at you.
Yeah.
So what you do, what you say, how you behave, if you are in a good or bad mood, it has an impact on the company. And at a time of difficulty, at a time of crisis, but not necessarily crisis, by the way. It's really at a time of challenges, and sometimes the challenges are for the good, meaning you are growing, or you just won a contract, you don't know how to deliver, and sometimes it's the opposite. There are lots of stress in our environment, and this is where the role of a leader is absolutely critical, because you need to take all this energy, which is positive, which in the beginning feels like or seems like a negative energy, and you turn it into a positive energy. It's really actually another way to look at it is about the glass half full.
Right.
Really, it's about thinking positive. And you say, okay, we have a challenge. How do we tackle it? And it's about bringing people together, because all challenges, all businesses, all activities, at the end of the day, it's about working together, having people, teams, having a same goal, sharing goals, in order to really achieve something.
Yeah. You talk about people looking at you in times of crisis, and even non-times of crisis, but how they see you react. If they see a sense of panic in your voice, in your actions, that's going to spread like wildfire, through the ranks. Whereas they see you come in and you've got this positive mindset, and you talk about how we're going to think outside the box and we're going to do things in a way that supports the growth of our company. Man, that's infectious. Positivity is so infectious. So I love that you've got that mindset, and that's developed over the course of your career. It's interesting. Sometimes you don't know why you're going through certain things. You talk about these different crises that we've been a part of, but you look back in the rearview mirror and you're like, well, it's actually been beneficial to not only me, but to the company, because we've grown stronger as a result of these things that we've experienced.
And on the human side of it, meaning it's one thing to say, let's think positive and be resilient, but as a leader, it's actually hard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you are in a bad mood.
Right.
Sometimes you are yourself a bit depressed. But again, how you feel, or at least the way people see you, has a major impact on the result of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to go back to your time as the president head of North America operations there, and you talk about how you got to know your customer, and getting to know the customer has been a big part of, I think, your success, because not only are you're leading your customers or your employees, but you're leading your customers as well. Can you talk about your time in North America and how that time really kind of helped ground you and get you to know the customers of Airbus very well?
Yeah. So actually, when and I'm doing exactly the same thing now in my new position. When I go and visit a customer, operators, and it could be police, it could be hospitals, it could be firefighters, it could be an operator on the oil and gas activity, energy activity. It could be a private individual, or of course military, various armed forces. When I go there, of course, you start having meeting in an office. And that's important because I would say it's more the corporate part of the thing. But for me, the most important is not that. The most important is actually walking the floor, going in the hangar, meeting the technicians, going with the pilots, and sometimes flying with the pilots and getting their feedback firsthand. If it's a hospital, I'm very interested talking to the doctors, talking to the nurses. When I visit a police forces, it's about talking to the tactical flight officers, really understanding what they are doing, how they use the helicopters. And this allows you actually to gain a deep knowledge first about the missions, what they do with the helicopters, how they operate, but what are their needs, and how we, at the end of the day, we Airbus can better support the operation of all our operators.
I think that end user mindset is so important, because I think a lot of times people develop things like, this is a really cool idea. Well, it's a really cool idea in their mind, but in actual application, it's not great. So I commend you. Offline, we talked a little bit about an experience you had visiting a client, LAPD. Can you talk about your experience flying there and kind of what you learned?
Absolutely. I was so LAPD is flying. Is operating 16 H125, and had the opportunity to visit the great team of LAPD, and after several hours there, one of the pilots looked at me and so saying, Romain, in 20 minutes, we go for our normal flight over the city, basically chasing the bad guy.
Yep.
And it was super exciting. And then I went to the helicopters, and we started with about 20 minutes of, I would say, sightseeing around the city, because there was no calls.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a call. And then really it's about, then we went actually circling around the house where there was a dangerous person, and the helicopters was coordinating all the police officers around it, including the K9 team. And this is when I realized actually that it's tough. It's tough for a pilot circling for 2 hours around on top of a house. But the importance of it, because actually it was the helicopter which were coordinating all the police officers on the ground. Because this is where you have the best view. This is where actually you can really, really direct and ensure the safety of everybody and the efficiency of the operations.
Yeah, the most impact I think is made from that position of advantage in the helicopter. The H-125 has become the gold standard in law enforcement aviation. It's really cool. You got an opportunity to go and fly in LA. LA is arguably the most advanced law enforcement aviation program in the world. They've got the volume, the experience, the aircraft, the mission equipment, all the things that make them successful. So love that you got to do that. You talked about walking the shop and meeting with the technicians on the ground. All the things that you're doing that are giving you kind of the end user understanding of what works and what doesn't. That's really impressive. I commend you for that.
Yeah, and I actually have another story. I remember one day I had the opportunity to fly in Labrador in Canada, and with one of our operators. And I remember looking down. We were flying for 40 minutes, and I was looking down, and I saw trees for miles and miles and dozens of miles. And then I was thinking, and what if we have a challenge and we need to land? And I didn't see any place to land. And back to the importance of flying a very, very reliable helicopters. And
that same thing applied to me working in law enforcement. Very few places you can set the aircraft down if you had to in a densely populated urban environment. So that reliability is crucial, and I think that's why the 125 has become the gold standard. It's such a reliable platform. But I want to get back to your role now. We talked offline a little bit ago, and I said, I'm going to spend a good half of the conversation going through your background, and it's about half that. So while I'm so interested in the things that you've experienced. Actually, before we go there, I do have to ask. You talk about some of the cultural differences between moving from France to the U.S. to Canada and then now back to France. Can you talk about on the personal level how that's been rewarding for you?
Actually, from a profit, wherever you live in the world, and in my job, I have the opportunity really to work with all the operators of helicopters all over the world. Meaning, even now, if I'm supposedly living in France, the reality is I spend a huge amount of time all over the world. When I looked at all the countries I went to last year, I went to 25 different countries.
Wow.
Going from Brazil to Malaysia to New Zealand, of course, to several countries in Europe and Middle East and US and Canada. The culture between the different countries, of course, is slightly different, but the passion is the same.
Absolutely.
Meaning there is one thing which is absolutely common to wherever I go. It's about the passion of the operators for what they do. It's about the passion of the team at Airbus Helicopter, from whatever the nationality, whatever your culture, the passion to support all our operators. So that's really the common theme wherever I go.
Everyone in the world that you talk to has a smile on their face when they talk about helicopters, right?
Yeah, they do, because they do. Most of the time, I would say they are passionate about aerospace, or they are passionate about the mission.
Yeah,
which is performed by the helicopter.
yeah, well, love it. Can we kind of transition and talk about kind of what your mission is as the executive vice president of customer support and services? I know you've got a lot of responsibility there, but can you talk about what your role is kind of on the day-to-day there?
Yeah, so actually, I have the great honor to lead a team of 5,000 people. Wow. All across the world, and their mission is really to support the 12,000 helicopters which have been manufactured by Airbus, which are operated by more than 3,000 customers operators in 151 different countries.
Wow.
And that's why for us what is really key is to be able to support the helicopters first in a robust way, but second with proximity. So and here by the different activities of customer support, go from maintenance, repair, and overall logistics, delivering of parts, technical support, training, connected services, and so on. So everything which is needed on a helicopter after a client's customer has taken delivery of. This is what the great team of customer support and service is doing.
Yeah, on the MRO side, I know a lot of folks probably have interactions with your team, on the customer support side. Can you talk about some of the things, like Airbus has always had really, really good customer service. Can you talk about some of the goals you have and your vision to improve some of that as it pertains to some of the global operations? This podcast is powered by Vertical Magazine, which is more than just your favorite rotorcraft publication. Vertical's grown far beyond print to become a dynamic multimedia brand that keeps you informed, inspired, and connected. With digital access via verticalmag.com, podcasts on the HeliCAST platform, rotorcraft buying and selling via helitrader.com, helicopter maintenance conferences, extensive reach across social media, and an impressive catalog of visual content, visit verticalmag.com to learn more.
Actually, thank you for saying we have great customer service. But I have to say we are not where we need to be. We definitely have room for improvement. This is what I've heard from several of our customers. Meaning we are known on the market for having some of the best product. We are not necessarily known to have the best customer support and service. And really, this is something we want to change as a company, and really our ambition is in the next several years, and especially by 2028, our ambition is to be known as having the best product and the best customer support and services on the market. So that's our ambition.
That's huge. I think to have your foot in both camps is amazing. Can you talk about that year and kind of, are there milestones that exist between now and then? Some things that you're hoping to accomplish to kind of realize that goal?
Oh yeah, of course. Of course, we have a plan. It's about transforming. Of course, a lot of things. We have done a lot of things. We are always on a transformation journey in order to improve. We are listening constantly to our customers, taking their feedback, and driving change, driving transformation plan to improve. Some are paying off. Some, are not paying off as much as we can, and this is always an opportunity for us to step back. And sometimes think out of the box. So we have developed a transformation plan, really, I would say, based on three main strategic axes. The first one is about customer trust. It's about really be a reliable suppliers, and because this is the first thing our customer expects from us. They see us first as a supplier. We need to be reliable, and it's about delivering parts, especially delivering MRO, but also about being a strategic partners with a clear focus on operational availability. The second, I would say, strategic axis, it's about business performance. And what I mean by business performance is ensuring that our aircraft, when they are operated, are as competitive as possible. So it's constantly working on the competitiveness of our aircraft, which, for example, means reducing the direct maintenance cost, reducing the downtime, reducing the time it takes for an operator to maintain the helicopter. There is one KPI which are used, or one data which is used, which is called MMH per FH, maintenance man hour per flight hours, and we always work on how can we decrease that in order to make the helicopter more competitive. And the third strategic axis, it's about resilience and sustainability. Of course, at the heart of it and at the core of it, it's about safety and compliance, but it's also about focusing on the resources of today and tomorrow to operate and fly the helicopters. How can we actually help our operators in terms of training more pilots, in terms of training more technicians today and tomorrow? Because I truly believe that the biggest challenge for our industry today, yes, some might say is supply chain, but tomorrow the biggest challenge for our industry is actually the lack of pilots and the lack of technicians. This is what I'm hearing all over the world from all our customers.
Yeah, every conversation that I have, whether it's on the MRO podcast or the Hangar Z podcast, that's one of the top concerns. How do we develop the workforce that's necessary for our community? You know, it's not just in the aircrew pilot side; it's in the MRO community. It's everywhere. So it's an interesting question to pose. You know, and I'll ask you as a you know, outside the box thinker, any ideas on how we kind of help to address the recruitment issue that we face today?
So I would say different axes there. First, we need to attract more people, and actually, you attract people in our industry, into the aerospace industry at large, first, and second, into the helicopter world. Well, you attract them when they are in high school. After that, people have made their choices. The kids have made their choices. So this is where we, as an industry, we need to do a better job, actually marketing what we do in aerospace, what we do, especially as fantastic missions of helicopters. We need to do a better job. On the Airbus side, we because we want to be a part of it, we launched several years ago a great initiative which was called Airbus Goes to School, where we provide kits to our employees in order for them to go to middle school, to high school, and explain what aerospace is about, in order to potentially have some of the kids saying, "This is what I want to do."
Yeah.
So it's one thing. The second is to make sure once they are in aerospace that we keep them in aerospace. And here I take the opportunity to applaud the great initiatives of Vertical, of Mike Reno and the team, really about the Vertical MRO conference. Meaning, as soon as I remember Mike called me and said, "Romain, this is what I'm I'm going to launch. Can I count on you? And of course, we said yes, because it's about keeping the people. It's about developing our technicians for them to stay in helicopter and increase their level of competency. Another thing, and I can go on and on and on. At some point, John, you stop me. But it's also about partnering with specialized aerospace schools in order to develop them. And I take one example, which there will be an announcement in the coming weeks in one of the country in Middle East, where there is a huge demand for helicopter technicians, and we went to see one of the top school, their aviation school, but which didn't have a training course on helicopters. And we have worked with them in order to develop this training course and bring actually more helicopter technicians, more technicians into the helicopter world. On the pilot side, it's about developing and having more and more simulators all across the world. And we just announced in the recent weeks that we are setting up on the Airbus side a new H160 and H175 simulator in Brazil. We just announced we are doing the same and setting up an H175 simulator, full flight simulator in Malaysia. But it's also, and this back to the thinking out of the box, bringing new innovations into the pilot training. And several years ago, we partnered with Loft Dynamics to bring virtual reality simulators into the market. And here I can tell you, as an OEM, I'm very, very happy with the partnership which we had with Loft Dynamics. It's very successful because it's bringing a game changer in the way pilots are trained, because you bring proximity with this virtual reality simulators. You bring proximity to our customers all over the world.
I had a chance to fly the Loft Dynamics 125 simulator. It was amazing, and I commend you guys for your efforts there. I know LAPD just received the first simulator that I know of in law enforcement in the world. It's partnered with you guys in Loft in the 125, and the changes that's going to make, the safety threshold that's going to provide for pilots is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's proximity, it's safety, it's efficiency, and all of that at the level of cost which is significantly lower than a full flight simulator. It's hard to compare, so the two are complementing each other.
Yeah.
And one other thing in terms of technicians and pilots, meaning we now are actually giving the opportunity for the technicians who want to train on Airbus platform to train remotely through web-based training. And this is also important because we need to address many people, and we need to bring this proximity. And I think we can even do more there, because one of the challenge I'm hearing from all our operators is today the way technicians are come to aerospace, especially the younger generation. Well, they don't have the same way of learning. It's much more digital.
Yeah.
And our industry is industry is more traditional for plenty of good reasons, but also we need to embrace this innovation. We need to embrace digital more and more, not only in terms of analyzing data, capturing data, but it's also about how we train.
It's interesting when you think back to, our time in college and growing up as a kid. If you wanted to learn about aviation, you had to go to the library, you had to go find an encyclopedia, you had to really go out of your way to learn. Today, that information's readily available, but like you said, people learn in much different ways. Instead of a 2-hour documentary that someone's wanting to sit down and read through, they might be willing to sit through 30 minutes, and that might be a stretch, right? So it's really, I commend anybody in the education sector today, because people learn in a much different way. The pace of learning is much different. They talk about micro learning and how that plays into our careers. It's interesting, right?
Yeah, and I take one example on our personal life, meaning today you need, let's say you need to repair something at your home. So there is a manual, but who reads the instructions anymore? How to repair things? What you do is you go on internet, you go on YouTube, and you say, well, I need to do that.
Yep.
And then you have a 2 minutes video.
YouTube University.
These are the type of things which we need more and more to introduce, not to replace the instruction manual, but really to complement the paper, the instruction manual. So these are the type of things we are also working on.
Yeah, I love those kinds of projects. You talk about the simulators on the pilot side. I'm interested to see those types of concepts move over to the MRO side. How on the MRO side can we visualize things in a different way, like you're saying, in complement to the manuals? Is there a way to use VR goggles or those types of tools, to the MRO community's advantage? I imagine putting a set of goggles on, VR goggles, and being able to kind of move things up out of the way so you can visualize the internal components of an engine or transmission or whatever the component is, the different systems. I think there's so much potential there. So it's exciting to think through that.
Yeah, and actually, we at Airbus have several projects in that direction. Some are proof of concept, some are already implemented, not widely enough yet, because the technology is not necessarily fully mature to do so. But this is where actually we are heading.
Love it. Yeah, that innovation, that outside the box thinking is what's going to transform and continue to push our community. When we're dealing with recruitment issues and we don't have the numbers of folks that we need to do the job, so we need those folks that are actually doing the job to be more efficient. And I think you do that through those types of innovations. Going back to your guys' the goals you have, you talked kind of about the 3 pillars to improve the customer experience. Can you talk about some of the progress you've made since you've stepped into the role that you're currently in?
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Yeah, so if I start with, I would say the customer trust part, the first strategic axis, which is customer trust, which is all about being a reliable supplier and a strategic partner. On the reliable supplier, first and foremost, it's about deliver. Mm-hmm. And here, when I look at, because it has been one of the challenges we have been facing about the ability to deliver the parts, especially at the time of some challenges on the supply chain side. I mean, last year, our supply chain has delivered plus 15% more parts to us. This year, we are on track to do a plus 20%.
Wow.
And we are seeing already significant improvement on our ability to deliver parts to our customer when they need it. Then one of the challenge, and I will share. Actually, I will quote one of our customers when I when I met him, he said, Romain, we understand the supply chain challenges which you are facing. Everybody is facing that, and actually all industries are facing supply chain challenges. But where Airbus needs to improve, it's about your reliability and predictability. When you say you have to deliver parts at that time, this is where you need to improve. And this really comment struck me, and I said, well, how do we stand? And we realized that actually we didn't have the good KPI. We didn't know if we were good or actually not that good. And we launched a project, and because you cannot improve what you cannot measure, we measured it, and we realized that only when the customer were ordering a parts, we were able to provide the date only 79% of the time. We launched an improvement project. 6 months later, we are already at 86%, and we plan to be at 92% at the end of the year, and mid next year at 95%.
Wow.
Really by tackling all the underlying challenges which are behind. So these are some of the examples. I mentioned others on the pilot side, on the technician side, on the training. But at the end of the day, it's about delivering.
Yeah, it's easy to step back and say we want to do this, but you guys are actually doing it. And I like that you're keeping the metrics to go with that, and you've got the numbers going forward to the metrics essentially to say that this is our goal. That plus 90% delivery would be amazing. I'm looking at our time, and I realize our time is winding down, and I want to pick your brain on just a few other things. Going back to where we see ourselves as an industry. Can you talk about, from your perspective, some of the headwinds that we face as an industry outside of recruitment and supply chain, and how do we kind of conquer that?
Yeah, recruitment challenge is the number one, and it's the one we must find a solution for, because it will bite us more and more, and if we don't tackle it now, and in all fairness, we are a bit late already, all together as an industry. In 10 years from now, the helicopter industry, which we know today, it will not be the same, and it will be worse in 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Supply chain, I think things are moving into the right direction. We are not where we need to be as an industry, but after all the challenges around COVID plus various supply chain crises, and I'm sure there are more to come, I see that really the supply chain, all in all, is not only recovering, but growing. More and more deliveries. I think the level of deliveries from our supply chain, and sometimes our supply chain for Airbus, it's sometimes ourselves, we are delivering more now than what we were delivering in 2019. And I see here a positive trend. One of the challenge is about quality. What we are starting to see on the supply chain is we have a KPI, key performance indicator, which we measure, which is on-time delivery, and all OEMs, all the entire aerospace is doing the same. And when we share all our data, what we are seeing at aerospace level is that the level of on-time quality is actually degrading. Our suppliers, the supply chain is delivering more, recovering on delivering on time, but it's about quality.
Yeah.
And here it's back to, we have lost over the last several years, especially around the COVID time, we have lost tribal knowledge. We have lost lots of experienced technicians across the entire supply chain.
Yeah.
And of course, the newcomers do not come with the same background, the same knowledge. and this leads sometimes to challenges. And this is something also, and back to the training questions. This is something we need to work on very hard as an industry, because we are in an industry where safety is paramount. Yeah. And what means safety there? It means 0% defect.
Yeah, there's little room for error when you're flying over downtown LA, and there's houses everywhere that are preventing you from executing a safe landing, or over the Canadian forest, and there's no gaps in the trees. You know, that level of safety, that level of performance is needed. You know, it's expected and demanded in these environments. You guys have done that. You know, you guys have created a product that is superior. It's reliable. It's great.
But you were talking about headwinds, but I would say there are also lots of very exciting and positive things coming into our industry. Let's take digital. I think this has the power to transform the helicopter industry the same way it's actually transforming the fixed-wing industry here. Because helicopter generate a lot of data, which helps in terms of improving reliability, improving maintenance, improving safety practices. So I'm actually super excited.
Yeah, me too. I think that the innovation that is created in our industry, combined with the passion, really makes a difference. You know, I'm excited for our future. You know, I know there are some challenges that exist, like you said, but I think overall there's a really, really bright future. You talk about fly-by-wire, AI, and all these different things. Man, how exciting is that?
Yeah, and when you look at, well, actually, I lost my thought.
That's okay. Okay.
No. Back to AI. Back to AI. It's about making for all the suppliers, all the equipment manufacturers, all the OEMs. How do I'm making things more efficiently? But it's exactly the same on the operators. I truly believe AI will help transform our industry to make it more competitive and safer.
I agree. Yeah, I think we're kind of in the infancy stage of AI and learning how to use that information to our advantage. So it is really exciting to think through some of the potentials that go along with the use of that data, the learning aspect of that. Again, being short on time, my last question for you, and actually before I get to the last question, I just want to thank you. You know, your passion for the industry, your leadership in our industry is very evident in the things that you've done, the products that Airbus creates. So thank you for your passion. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for everything you've done. You know, through leaders like you, our community has a really, really bright future. Look forward to seeing the things that you continue to develop, some of the things that you continue to implement at Airbus. So thank you for sharing that with us, with our audience. On that, any last words, any messages you'd like to get out to the community as a whole?
Helicopter industry is a super exciting industry. And I think all pilots, all technicians, everybody, you can be a logistician, you can even work in HR, finance, and so on and so forth. Meaning, when you work in the helicopter industry, it's about the mission. For me, the most important. Helicopter every day save life, protect people, transport passengers safely, grow the economy. When you see what the helicopter do in many parts of the world, they contribute to the growth of the economy. It's a fantastic industry to be in. It's about the purpose, and I love this industry, and I encourage everybody to join this industry. Because when you go home, or actually, when you go home after your job, I can tell you no matter what you are going to do, you go home with a smile, because what you will have done during the day will make a difference in somebody else's life.
I couldn't say that any better myself. It's 100% true, and that's where I think the passion that comes out of our industry is born. Is going home and feeling fulfilled. That's ultimately what people want in their life, is to enjoy the work they do, to feel rewarded, and that's, I think, not every day is roses, as any profession, but on the whole, you leave and you talk about all these amazing missions that are completed, the contributions, like you mentioned, to the economy, all the positive things that come from our community. It's absolutely amazing. So thank you again for sharing your time, your insights, your knowledge, your leadership. Look forward to seeing you at the Vertical MRO conference. Thank you for your support there. It's going to be really cool to see the MRO community show up and network and learn at that event. So,
and thank you very much, John, for inviting me. I must say I enjoyed very much our discussions.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And until next time, we'll catch you later. Cheers.
Thank you.
Stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Safe Structure Designs offers creative, customizable ergonomic safety solutions with over 20 years of experience. Their custom design process is free, ensuring safety and efficiency. Let them create your ideal solution. Visit www.safe-2.com. That's www.safe-2.com for more information. If you're passionate about rotorcraft maintenance, then be sure to check out Vertical's new Instagram channel at vertical.mro, sharing all things related to helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul. From the latest podcast episodes to conference updates, and even epic photography, Vertical MRO is dedicated to supporting and advancing rotorcraft maintenance, the backbone of our industry. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS in partnership with Vertical Magazine. We're grateful to Airbus Helicopters for making this insightful conversation with Romain Trapp possible. We hope you enjoyed this engaging discussion, full of valuable insights into leadership, innovation, and the future of rotorcraft support. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes packed with expert perspectives and industry updates.